brand new monster-taming roguelike is coming from Ludwig and PirateSoftware's publishing company, Offbrand Games, and it's called Aethermancer. I'm gonna give it to you straight. It's pretty awesome. If all you needed to hear was a random YouTuber say you should play it, then there you have it. You might have heard of the developer Moi Rai Games because they also made Monster Sanctuary, a monster-taming side-scroller that's the spiritual predecessor to Aethermancer. I grew up on the Pokemon games and mobile games like Dragon City and Monster Legends, so this is right up my alley. I've also recently fallen in love with roguelikes of many kinds, so this is shaping up to be a game that I'll spend a lot of time with. Right now, they've got a demo up on Steam for free, obviously, and if you are watching this video while it's live, I really recommend you try it out. It's got a few hours of content for you to sink some time into, and there's 15 monsters to get to know, as well as the characters of Terraste, who are all pretty fun to interact with and have unique personalities. Like any demo, the time you put into it lets you know what you're in for over the long haul of the game. Your team will die at the end of every run, sure, but your runs will also make them stronger. Plus, every monster makes a distinct impact on your team, working together with your other fighters to let you create countless team builds. If you've heard of or played Inscription, it has a pretty similar combat resource system that makes the game all the more strategic. It also feels a little bit, well, a lot of it, like the energy system in the Pokemon trading card game, yet another way that it broadly relates to Pokemon. Moi Rai Games is based in Germany, but their team is made up of people across the globe. They shipped their first game, Monster Sanctuary, in December of 2020 to pretty positive reception. Right now, they've got just over 10,000 positive reviews on the game, and I think that's pretty impressive. According to Steam charts, so of course, grain of salt, it's still a pretty obscure game, only peaking at 1,400 players and a few hundred coming back to play every month. The Aethermancer demo has peaked at about 580 players at the time of recording this video. That may seem like it's not a lot, but when you consider that this is just the demo and a lot of players are probably going to wait until early access or even the full game to grab it, it's looking like Aethermancer is building the momentum to outpace Monster Sanctuary. Later on that both Ludwig and PirateSoftware are attached and want to see the game succeed, and you can bet that a lot of press will be generated. I mean, I'm making this video right now, and if I'm being honest, I probably wouldn't have come across this game if it wasn't for Ludwig. That kind of impact is worth considering. Besides, I think Aethermancer deserves the hype. Other monster taming games usually struggle to stick out against Pokemon games for a lot of reasons, but mostly because Game Freak and Nintendo put a lot behind those games. There's always a new game coming out. Right now we're waiting on Zeta A, and there's spin-offs on spin-offs across genres. You might have even heard of a pretty popular mobile game you could catch Pokemon even on the go. It was revolutionary. But really, it's refreshing to see a title that feels familiar in some aspects but blows me away in others. I love the blend of an isometric overworld with side view battles. Its unique pixel style creates a huge visual gap between this game and the modern Pokemon games. The gameplay feels pretty unique too. As I played through my first run of the demo, I noticed that the moves that your monsters took on were pretty functional and could lend to a range of playstyles. The monsters you choose or add to your team all have their own strengths, so working them together to create powerful synergies or strong defenses through combat is key. If a monster takes certain types of damage while playing, they lose a portion of their max HP for the rest of the run, which is pretty consequential and makes defense a major aspect of winning fights. Should your monsters die in battle, they're gone for good, which sucks a little bit, but there are ways to capture monsters and add them to your team throughout your runs. This means new synergies and moves and effects and blah, blah, blah. You get the point. Another important aspect of roguelikes, but really any game, is the actual map that you have to explore. I don't think it's fair to judge the demo too hard on this, so I'll say this. It's fun to explore, and there's some unique mechanics that you can use to get around. They've got some unique structures and characters to help you with gaining monsters and upgrading your gear. There's also some fun ways to interact with threats in the overworld that have influence over your 3v3 fights. Those good bones give me hope that the full game will give us a fun and engaging map to explore as we take on the Void. Speaking of the Void, I'm really interested in the story that Moi Rai has laid out for us in the demo. As an Aethermancer, we decide to investigate a disturbance that seems to be coming from deep inside the ruins of Terraste. You encounter another Aethermancer early in your run that gives you a lot of insight into what they are doing there and, in turn, what you're doing there. It seems like they'll shape up to be a really interesting foil of your character and maybe even someone that stands in your way later. I don't know. I'm just spitballing. This game pulls a few genres together into a unique experience that could appeal to a lot of players. But who exactly would like this game, you might ask? First off, of course, if you like monster taming games, you'd be silly to miss out on this one. It's fresh for the genre and brings more to the table than, say, a chibi-style Pokemon remake would. No hate, though. You've got your typical team building and typing mechanics, but it requires a little bit more of a tactical or strategic approach than the mainline Pokemon games. I mean, why not? And of course, if you like roguelikes or games with strong replayability, you'll probably find this game to be worth your time. I personally love the feeling of progressing over time and getting 1% better each time you go into the world. So making not only your character stronger, but also your monsters is like double the action in the same game. If you need more than a random YouTuber telling you this game is fun to play, then scroll through the Steam reviews and take their word for it. There's some lofty praise, but also some fair and objective suggestions that give you an idea of where this game could head in the future. For me, as time goes on, I'd like to see some quality of life additions added to the game that make battling crystal clear because it's somewhat dense and you're kind of just thrown into the deep end right off the jump. I also hope, like others in the reviews, for more cosmetic customization or even an overworld monster companion like this reviewer calls for. Aethermancer could be one of the best indie surprises of the year, and I'd hate it if you missed out on it. Like I said at the top of the video, this indie game and others being published by offbrand games is something worth talking about. You can say that I'm glazing Lud or Moi Rai or whatever, but it's like, I want to see change in the gaming community, specifically between developers and players, and offbrand games is the perfect kind of middleman. Looking at AAA games from the last few years and what's coming up, a true standout is few and far between. For me, personally, in my opinion, I rarely find myself hyped for a new title that's coming out. Games are starting to feel dull and made of the same parts in slightly different configurations. This isn't a new or unique criticism, but a lot of studios think that big equals good, when in reality, it's just more half-baked slop for us to get through just so that we can say we played the most anticipated game of the year. In a word, AAA games have become boring. Indie games, though, that's where the magic's happening. Just looking at the games that Offbrand has published, we've gotten a platform fighter, an adventure RPG, and a Monster-Taming roguelike. Each has their own unique charm and brings something different to the table. Are these games household names? No. Will they ever be? Who knows? But incentivizing developers to create something new, engaging, and fun is where we need to start. Someone like Ludwig, who from his start in competitive Smash has been a community-focused figure, can use his influence to shine a light on these kinds of games. Of course, he could just make content about it, but he's gone a step further alongside PirateSoftware to be the ones that bring these games to players. Like I said, I wouldn't even know about this game or developer if it wasn't for being a follower, and I know I'm not the only one. Statistically, I'm positive that the amount of people playing because of Ludwig or PirateSoftware outpaces the amount of people that are playing because they know of Moi Rai, which isn't a dig at Moi Rai at all, and honestly is just the opposite. If those two, or whoever ends up making decisions at Offbrand Games, felt like Aethermancer would be a good fit for their portfolio of published games, then that means that Moi Rai is doing something right as a developer. Making an impact with your video game starts and ends with the player experience. Story, gameplay, look, and feel all work together to keep a gamer coming back again and again to play the game. Whether it's Candy Crush or Baldur's Gate 3 or Aethermancer, that is what matters. When a creator like Ludwig promotes a game like Aethermancer to millions of people, it makes a real difference. Every game can't be for every gamer, but increasing the amount of people who even know your game exists exponentially increases the odds that you find your audience. Working with a publishing company attached to two of the biggest creators in the space is one of the smartest and most beneficial things you can do as a developer. The best way to combat AAA slop is to produce and promote indie gold, and I want to play a small part in that. I'll have my run of the demo uploaded soon with no commentary so you can get a good feel for what the game is all about, as well as playing it live soon, but I really recommend that you pick it up anyway. You won't regret it. As always, thank you for watching. I'm the little ajoll in your screen, and I will see you in the next video.